Oh, hi everyone. Welcome to Mark's 900. I'm Mark, and well, we all need lubrication from time to time, and I could have illustrated that in a number of different ways. But before your mind starts racing, let me just say this is, of course, about motorcycle chains. Now, don't switch off just yet. I know there's loads of YouTubers out there about cleaning and lubricating motorcycle chains. Go and see Fort9 or Revzilla or one of these guys, and they'll explain it all to you. What I've done though is taken the most commonly recommended products for cleaning and lubricating. I've been using them for the last 6 to 8 months, and this is really just about the results of that. So I know what you're thinking. Please, Mark, don't make us go and watch these other channels to find out what products they're recommending. Okay, so for chain cleaning, the recommendation is generally paraffin, or as it's known in other countries, kerosene. And for lubrication, just plain old gear oil. So I'm going to dive into those in a bit more depth now, and we'll talk about how much it costs, whether it works well, and more importantly, is it going to wreck your chain? Right, so first of all, let's talk about chain cleaning. Now, I'm not going to show you how to clean a chain. There's plenty of people out there that can do that. But I'm going to talk about this product, paraffin or kerosene. So I've used loads of different products to clean chains, and they're all fantastic. They do a great job. But this, right, comes in a lot cheaper. So the stuff you can buy on Amazon or you can buy from the shops is around about £8 to £10 a can, and you can maybe clean 6 chains with it. This stuff is 4 litres worth of it, comes in at less than £10 from B&Q, and it's in the section with all the gardening equipment, because it's generally used in greenhouse heaters. So I've got some of that, and I got myself a spray bottle, emptied some in, and Bob's your uncle, you've got yourself some chain cleaner. Now, what I did find with this is it is absolutely brilliant. So the stuff in the can does a really good job, but this is amazing. Okay, so it comes in much cheaper, it does a fantastic job, but is there a downside? Well, we've all got O-rings and X-rings in our chains these days, and I know this is quite an old-fashioned kind of formula for cleaning when they didn't have those things. So are you damaging your O-rings and your X-rings? Well, I put one in the bottom of there. Now I don't know if you can see it, but what I'm going to do is fish that out in a bit, because that's been in there for 6 to 8 months since I've been doing this, but it's around about 6 months. So I'm going to fish that out, and we're going to have a look at it and test it. What it is an automotive O-ring that I bought from Halfords. I bought a pack of them for, you know, a few pence. So we'll take that out, we'll see what it looks like in a bit. So that's chain cleaning then. Highly recommended so far, but let's see what happens to the O-rings. Okay, I've had to come back indoors because it was just too windy and too noisy out there. So we talked about cleaning the chain, and now I'm going to talk about lubrication. So what I always used to use was a kind of sticky spray-on chain lube. This one's made by Castrol, but I've used lots of different ones. It sprays on, it's really sticky, so it doesn't fly off and go all over your wheels and your tyres. But the downside to that, I found, is that it doesn't seep around the chain. So wherever you spray it, it just stays there. And if you miss a bit and then go out in the rain, sure enough, you end up with little spots of red rust coming up all over the chain. So then you spray a bit more on. As a result, that can doesn't last all that long. And actually, it's quite expensive. And it's not just Castrol, all of them come in at around about £10 for a tin. So the recommendation then is to use gear oil. Now I had a bit of a problem with this because I went to Halfords and I couldn't find gear oil. So the first thing I came across was manual transmission fluid. So I bought some of that thinking, well, transmission fluid, gear oil, isn't that the same thing? And then when I got home and Googled it, found out that that's not actually the stuff. So don't buy that. The second thing I tried was motorcycle gear oil, which is a 10W40, and that I tried, but it's just way too thin. So that was wrong as well. The prices are racking up now because these come in at about £6 a ton. Eventually I found it in Halfords, the good old gear oil, and this one is an 80W90, so it's a nice thick gear oil. So what I do with this stuff is to paint it onto the chain. So I got myself an old tin, emptied some in, and I use a brush, once again, back to B&Q. It's one that's supposed to be used for painting paint into corners. It's not very good at that, but it's very good at putting oil onto a chain. You just put a light layer on and then wipe it off with a cloth, or just wipe off the excess. If you leave too much on, when you ride off, it flicks oil all over the back wheel and all over the back tyre, so obviously you don't want that. So just be careful how much you put on, not too much. And once again, this is probably going to last me for the rest of my time on a motorcycle. Fantastic. So once again then, really cheap, does the job really well because it seeps all around the chain, it gets to every part of it, and Even when you've been out in the wet, there's not a hint of rust on the chain. I think that is way better than any of the sticky oil stuff that I've used before. But does it destroy your O-rings and your X-rings? Well, to find out, once again, I went to my pack of Halford's automotive O-rings, which kind of look just like that. And I dropped one of these into that can around about 6 months ago. So I've managed to fish it out. Here it is. And what I'm going to do is just pull it with my fingers. It's not snapping, it's not breaking. It still feels like it's got all of its integrity, and it's not rubbing off any sort of rubber onto my hands as if it's dissolving. So, seems to be in perfect nick. I'll just compare that to one that hasn't been in oil, and yeah, that sort of feels exactly the same. So, I'm quite happy then. That gear oil is not doing my chain any damage, but is in fact doing a really good job of keeping it lubricated. Let's go and have a look at the chain cleaner. Here's my old bottle of chain cleaner then. You can see that I've had to empty it out to get to the O-ring that was sitting in the bottom of there. And here it is. So let's test that and see if it's any good. Bear in mind it was in there for, again, around about 6 months. Absolutely no problem. It's still a good solid O-ring. It's got all its integrity and it's not sort of leaving rubber on my fingers or anything like that. So it seems to be in really good shape. And again, compared to one that hasn't been used, yeah, it feels exactly the same. So, great news then. The chain cleaner, the kerosene or paraffin, doesn't destroy O-rings. So what's the downside to all of this then? I mean, these products seem to be fantastically good at what they do, and a fraction of the price of the stuff that you buy in the shops. There's got to be a downside, hasn't there? Well, they don't destroy the O-rings in the chain. What can I say? Well, in terms of the oil, it does help if you just have to paint on a bit more oil, probably more often than when you use the spray can, but it's a really simple job and it takes seconds to do. So I would say every couple of 100 miles I just give it another coat of that. The downside to this, there's two really. One is it absolutely stinks. I mean, it's not a good smell and you don't want to be using this in your house. The second thing is that I don't think it's very eco-friendly. Now, I know with some of the chain cleaners that you can buy, they do claim to be eco-friendly, and on the other hand, I do know of people that use this and then collect it after they've sprayed it onto the chain, filter it off and then reuse it. So arguably it's just as good as the eco-friendly stuff, but probably not the way I use it. So that's it, really. That's the summary. What I would say is, honestly, would recommend in every single case, use kerosene or paraffin for cleaning your chain and use gear oil for oiling it.